Welcome to the 23rd episode in my drug name pronunciation series here on the Pharmacist Voice podcast. This is episode 254 overall. I am your host, Kim Newlove. I am a pharmacist by training with experience in hospital, retail, compounding, and behavioral health. But I'm not in clinical practice anymore. I am a voice actor and a podcast host. My specialties are medical narration and podcasting. You can find my business and my podcast at thepharmacistvoice.com. Today, we're talking about Paxlovid, also known as Nirmatrelvir and Ritonavir. We'll cover all three drug names today. Let's get into it. Oh, and by the way, if you are new to my drug name pronunciation series, I want to welcome you. This is a great series, and I love it. In this series, I divide drug names into syllables, explain which syllables have the emphasis, and then reveal the sources of my information. Seeing those written pronunciations is helpful, as I know myself, so I share my written pronunciations in the show notes on thepharmacistvoice.com so you can see them and use them right away. The purpose of these pronunciation episodes is to provide the intended pronunciations of drug names from reliable sources. I like reliable sources, so you feel more confident saying them and less frustrated learning them. Let's face it, YouTube is awesome, I use it myself, but listening to 8 different people say Paxlovid, Nirmatrelvir, and Ritonavir 8 different ways and then trying to guess which one is the right one is no fun. It doesn't have to be that hard. Just follow this podcast and check out the drug name pronunciation episodes. I give you the right information from reliable sources. Let's get started. What is Paxlovid? According to Paxlovid.com, Paxlovid is a prescription medicine used to treat mild to moderate COVID-19 in adults who are high risk for progression to severe disease, including hospitalization or death. A patient will take 30 oral tablets over 5 days, 30 tablets over 5 days, 2 Nirmatrelvir 150 tablets, and 1 Ritonavir 100 tablet, POBID times 5 days. That's Nirmatrelvir 150, 150 milligrams, and Ritonavir 100, or 100 milligrams. That's 3 pills by mouth twice a day, 6 tablets total per day times 5 days, 30 tablets total. I recently had COVID myself. I did not need Paxlovid, but I picked this drug name in honor of my recent and first ever COVID infection. Thank God I survived. Not fun, but I survived. Now let's talk about the pronunciations. Paxlovid is a brand name. Like many brand name drugs, it only has 3 syllables. Pax, like my son packs up his stuff at college next week and heads home for Christmas break. Low, as in low energy, meaning I felt low energy when I had COVID last month in November, and vid, like video. Put that all together and you get Paxlovid. Emphasize the second syllable, which is low. Now, when I say it fast, you don't really hear the emphasis, Paxlovid. But that is the syllable that you emphasize. See if you can hear it when I say it slowly. Paxlovid. Paxlovid. Paxlovid treats COVID. Again, if you say it fast, it sounds like Paxlovid. There you go. Let's move on to the pronunciation of Nirmatrelvir. Nirmatrelvir has 4 syllables. Nir, like nirvana. Ma, as in Malaysia, the country. By the way, the A in ma is very much a schwa A sound. It sounds like the A in adoption. Ma, Malaysia. Ma. The third syllable is trel, like a trellis in a flower garden. And vir. Vir is the last syllable. Veer as in the car veered off the road because it lost traction in the snow. By the way, vir is a stem for antiviral compounds, or antiviral if you prefer to pronounce it that way. Do you know what I mean when I say stem? Stems are the building blocks of non-proprietary or generic drug names. They give us hints about which drugs are in the same pharmacologic family. Again, the stem vir is used in generic names for antivirals. Nirmatrelvir and Ritonavir are both antivirals. COVID is a virus, therefore you treat it with antivirals. All right, put that all together and you get Nirmatrelvir. Emphasize NIR and TREL. TREL gets the most emphasis. We also call this the primary emphasis. You emphasize it the most. See if you can hear it when I say it slowly. Nirmatrelvir. Nirmatrelvir. And quickly, Nirmatrelvir. Our third and final drug today is Ritonavir. Ritonavir also has 4 syllables. Ri, like wrist, ton, which rhymes with John, na, as in the second syllable in the word sauna, na, and veer, like the car veered off the road because it lost traction in the snow. Again, veer is the stem for antivirals, veer. Put all 4 syllables together and you get ritonavir. Emphasize the third syllable, ton. See if you can hear that when I say it slowly. Ritonavir. Ritonavir. Now, how did I know how to say Paxlovid, Nirmatrelvir, and Ritonavir? Let's start with Paxlovid. Paxlovid was easy because I had both the spoken and the written pronunciations. That's always the ideal situation. If you can find the spoken and written pronunciations from a reliable source, you're golden. For the spoken pronunciation, the drug sponsor, which is Pfizer, published a catchy direct-to-consumer video that includes the pronunciation of the drug Paxlovid. For the written pronunciation, look at the patient information section of the package insert. That's just after section 17. Look for the patient information section. It's at the very end of the package insert online. There's a link to both the spoken and written pronunciations of Paxlovid in the show notes for episode 254 on the pharmacistvoice.com/podcast. Or just go to thepharmacistvoice.com, click on the podcast tab, and find episode 254. Just as an aside, real quick, in that video put out by Pfizer, the actors say, if it's COVID, Paxlovid. So if that jogs your memory, that's that video. That's what I'm referring to. As for Nirmatrelvir and Ritonavir, I used 2 different resources. Let's talk about where I found the pronunciation of Ritonavir first. It's much more straightforward. I found the pronunciation of Ritonavir in the USP Dictionary Online. The USP Dictionary Online is a subscription-based resource, and it is my favorite generic drug name pronunciation resource. I'm not compensated in any way for mentioning the USP Dictionary Online, but I must say I do love their dictionary. And thank you, as always, to the USP Legal Department for allowing me to publish your written pronunciations in my show notes and on YouTube. Usually this content is behind a paywall. Much appreciated. Thank you, USP Legal. Now let's get to the source of the third drug name in this episode, Nirmatrelvir. I know I talked about it second, but I'm talking about the source of the pronunciation third. All right, just so you know, I felt conflicted about the pronunciation of this one. Pfizer Media Relations gave me the pronunciation that I ended up going with, which is Nirmatrelvir. I would have preferred to read the pronunciation from the USP Dictionary online. However, unfortunately, Nirmatrelvir is new enough that it does not appear in the USP Dictionary online yet. What does one do when a drug name is so new? It's not even in the dictionary yet. What I did was I asked a subject matter expert at USP for her input. She was kind enough to share it with me, and I appreciate you very much if you're listening. Her pronunciation is Nirmatrelvir. I had a dilemma when I heard that. Her pronunciation did not match what Pfizer Media Relations gave me. It's so hard to know which one to choose. I know a lot of people have this problem when they look on YouTube. So what's the tiebreaker? The tiebreaker for me was the 1990s grunge band Nirvana. In the United States, we pronounce the band's name Nirvana. Coincidentally, Nirvana is literally the only word in my Webster's New World Dictionary 3rd College edition, published in 1986, that starts with the 3 letters N-I-R. There are other words that have an I and an R in the word, like third and first. My dictionary is the 3rd edition, not the 3rd edition. Therefore, due to American culture, my dictionary, the Pfizer Media Relations Department, and also a video about Paxlovid on the drug sponsor's website, I'm on Team Nirmatrelvir. Let's review. We divided Paxlovid, Nirmatrelvir, and Ritonavir into syllables. Then we talked about which syllables were emphasized, and then I told you where I got my information. Plus, the written pronunciations are in the show notes. Check, 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 and check. I think we're done for the day. Thank you for joining me to learn how to say Paxlovid, Nirmatrelvir, and Ritonavir. To find the show notes for this episode, go to thepharmacistvoice.com, click on the podcast tab, and find episode 254. In the show notes, you'll find the written pronunciations of all three drugs, a link to the package insert for Paxlovid, which is on the FDA's website, a link to the direct-to-consumer video for Paxlovid, if it's COVID, Paxlovid, a link to the USP Dictionary online, a link to the pronunciation guide for the dictionary, which is available at no cost on the American Medical Association's website. You'll also find a link to the pronunciation of Nirmatrelvir that Pfizer Media Relations shared with me, links to the other 22 episodes in this drug name pronunciation series, and more. Lots of links in the show notes today. Check them out on thepharmacistvoice.com. If you know someone who needs to learn how to say Paxlovid, Nirmatrelvir, or Ritonavir, please share this episode with them. And if you like this podcast, please subscribe to or follow the Pharmacist Voice podcast on your favorite podcast player and YouTube to get each new episode right when it comes out. Thanks for listening today. I'll talk to you next Friday.